by talking about the one and only running back position in the National Football League, because Saquon Barkley did not sign his franchise tag. Josh Jacobs has not yet signed his franchise tag. Both of those high-profile running backs are now forced to play on the 1 year deal or get cut or traded by their teams, which then, by the way, they have to play on the tag, I do believe, for the other team. We saw this situation a couple years ago with Le'Veon Bell when he decided to skip basically the whole season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, signed a huge deal with the New York Jets, which was a complete bust. But there's been this conversation online instituted by multiple running backs, including Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, basically saying the NFL has devalued their position, the running back position. Des Bryant even tweeted the fact that kickers, the average salary of an NFL kicker is more this year than an NFL running back by about $1 million. And you guys know I love all things football. I'm currently preparing my 2023 NFL predictions column. We do best bets, we do money line predictions, we do all things football on this podcast, specifically when it goes September through February during the football season, NFL, college. Brandon's world is all over it. And I've been saying for years that running back, out of all the positions in the NFL, maybe outside of punter, is the least valuable position. The top running backs in the league right now: Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, by the way, isn't even signed. Those were for the last few years sort of the three universal best backs in the league. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler. You can throw maybe Alvin Kamara in there, Tony Pollard in there. Outside of Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, by the way, as well. Outside of Kamara and Christian McCaffrey, those other backs have never even made a conference championship game. And by the way, none of the top 10 backs currently, whatever you want to think, top 10, 8, however you want to say it, in the NFL right now, it doesn't matter what order they're in, they have never made a Super Bowl. The last team with a 1,000-yard rusher to win a Super Bowl may be the Seattle Seahawks, and I don't know this for sure, but it may be the Seattle Seahawks with Marshawn Lynch when they defeated the Denver Broncos. Because we all know New England, really never did during their run. Denver obviously had a good run game when they won Super Bowl 50, but it was a lot of, no Sean Moreno, CJ Anderson. It was all the splitting carries in that backfield. The Eagles did not when they won. The Rams did not when they won. This year, Kansas City did not when they won. Isaiah Pacheco, obviously a 7th-round pick. So it's not that the running back position per se is not valuable, because you can't have a great running game. But in today's football, I would say if you're a team that throws anywhere between 60 and 70% of the time, and you run then anywhere from 30 to 40% of the time, that is a good balance. Certain games, obviously, you want to be 50-50. More games, you maybe want to be 70-30 pass. Some games, maybe you want to be 60-40 run. But mostly in today's NFL, you're going to win by throwing the football. You can have a great regular season like the Baltimore Ravens did when they got the #1 seed, like Tennessee did a couple years ago, like the Eagles did a couple years ago, where you can win games by running the football, but you cannot win playoff games. You cannot win big games against the best quarterbacks in the league. You're Patrick Mahomes, you're Joe Burrows, you're Jalen Hurts, you're Josh Allen's, without a sustainable passing game. And I've said if I were to build an NFL team now, I would go quarterback, a mixture between offensive line, defensive line, and weapons, aka receivers, tight ends. By the way, I lean more now to having 2 legitimate #1s than having 2 legitimate offensive linemen. I think you need a great left tackle. I think you need a really good center. I could whip a little bit on the guards, specifically now if I have a mobile quarterback. if I have, a Jamar Chase and a Justin Jefferson or a Travis Kelce, for example. You need to be one really good. It doesn't have to be great. You need one good corner. You need a lot of good to great defensive linemen, lots of them. And then, you need a linebacker or two that can tackle. And then you get to the running back position. The running back position itself, as I just said, is not invaluable. It's the one guy getting 400 yards a carry, 400 carries a season, 12, 1,300, 1,400 yards. The reason why the back is getting the majority of the ball is because the teams can't pass, because they don't have legitimate offensive weapons. They don't have very good quarterbacks. And, you look at the guys, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, who we just mentioned, Jonathan Taylor. Probably your top 5 Western backs, along with Christian McCaffrey somewhere in there. And San Francisco, rotated McCaffrey along with Elijah Mitchell, and they made the NFC Championship game with those other teams. Cleveland, Indianapolis, Vegas, Tennessee, Minnesota, the Giants. They were mostly either one and done in the playoffs or didn't make the playoffs at all last year. Which is why when we're bringing on a bunch of Browns fans on here, and I've been advocating for the last year, the Browns should trade Nick Chubb, and I'm surprised at how much pushback I am getting from that take, because the running back position, you can rotate backs. A running back mostly has a shelf life of, I would say, 3 to 4 years. You could have a great 3 to 4 years of a back. Do not give him a second contract. You may be able to franchise tag him one time if he's really good. I would not give him a second year contract. I would let him go, and I would draft another back, especially as we think Bijan Robinson is coming out of college in Texas. Obviously, he's going to go to the Falcons. I would not give him a second contract right now. So it's nothing against Austin Eckler. It's nothing against Josh Jacobs. It's nothing against Saquon Barkley. It's nothing against your Derrick Henrys, your Nick Chubbs of the world. It's nothing against these great backs. It's just the majority of the time, why do backs put up the yards? Because they're on a bad team, or they have a bad quarterback, or they don't have a lot of weapons, and they get worn down pretty quickly. Look at guys like Ezekiel Elliott. He's no longer in the league. And when you have a special quarterback like Cincinnati has with Joe Burrow, this is going to be the last year with Joe Mixon, then they're going to move off Joe Mixon. Running back is the most replaceable position on the field. And when you have a great quarterback, you simply do not need a great running back. It's not that the position is not valuable or it doesn't present value or that you don't need a running game to win. It's the plethora of the position is not needed anymore from one workhorse guy. And that's what these running backs have to figure out and get rid of their brain and just realize that, unfortunately, for the great ones like your Derrick Henrys and Saquons and Josh Jacobs, who have not signed their contracts yet, it is the lay of the world in football in 2023. All right, so I want to quickly talk about DeAndre Hopkins signing with the Tennessee Titans. Me and Jalen recorded our podcast on Sunday before the news dropped later in the day that Diop had signed with Tennessee. So I did not get a chance to address this on Tuesday's show. But reports are saying it came down to Tennessee and New England. Diop has officially signed a 2-year contract with the Tennessee Titans that is mostly incentive-based. And the biggest question around DeAndre Hopkins is, choosing between Tennessee and New England, did he make the right choice going to Tennessee? Between those two teams, I do believe he made the right choice going to Tennessee. I had advocated, not just because they're my hometown team, but I think he would really fit well in Cleveland. The chemistry with Deshaun Watson in a hopefully more offensive, progressive leaning offense where you already have Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Mitchell. I think DeAndre Hopkins would have fit really well in Cleveland. But between Tennessee and New England, this Burks kid that Tennessee drafted right out of Arkansas that they thought they could replace A.J. Brown with, so far he is not the real deal. And when Derrick Henry got hurt last year, it didn't matter if the quarterback was Ryan Tannehill, who I would say at this point is declining. He's serviceable, but he is declining. Didn't matter if it was Malik Willis, It didn't matter if it was Josh Johnson. It didn't matter who they threw out there. If Derrick Henry was injured, or even when Derrick Henry was in there, they could just stack the box because Tennessee had no legitimate receiving threat. DeAndre Hopkins, to me, is still arguably a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, and top 10 wide receivers in the NFL are absolutely worth, specifically in that division, where yes, Indy could surprise people, Houston could surprise people, but it's not as likely. We all think Jacksonville was going to win that division. DeAndre Hopkins absolutely is worth one win at least, if not two, in that conference, in that division in the AFC South. And so all offseason, I've been down on Tennessee. I have not liked their direction. I did not like Will Levis coming out of college. I thought he was the wrong pick. I still like Malik Willis. I don't think Tennessee gave Malik Willis a chance last year. And I do think that after this year, they do have to move on from Ryan Tannehill. But the bottom line is DeAndre Hopkins will make this team a better football team this year. Defensively, they still have some pieces. And Mike Vrabel is a very good coach. You know, DeAndre Hopkins was with him a little bit when Vrabel was the linebackers coach, and then the DC in Houston. He knows him. He's a former player. He's a player's guy. And Diop has spent, his whole career, college, Clemson, Houston, Dome, Arizona, Dome, Tennessee, still somewhat of a warm weather climate. It can get cold there, but it doesn't get as cold as a New England or a Buffalo or a Kansas City or a Cleveland, which were his other options. So we see DeAndre Hopkins clearly was not ring chasing. Money didn't matter to him because I don't think Tennessee is a playoff team, even with D-Hop. So I think D-Hop's a very talented player. Sometimes I question his winning intangibles because, he's never been to a conference championship game, but he does succeed with whatever quarterback he's played with, whether it is Deshaun Watson, whether it is Matt Schaub, whether it is Tom Savage, whether it is Kyler Murray, whether it is Colt McCoy, whether it now will be Ryan Tannehill. D-Op has succeeded with a bunch of different quarterbacks. That's how talented he is. He's put up numbers year after year after year. He has not been quarterback dependent, which is a true sign of a number one wide receiver. And the biggest reason why I think he chose Tennessee personally over New England is Mike Vrabel is a defensive coach. They still do have Derrick Henry, though. They do have Burks, which they hope to break out. They have a couple other receivers. I think that Sharp is still there. But Vrabel is at least, I would say up to speed a little bit in terms of the NFL. He knows what it takes to win. He's not as rigid as Bill Belichick. He's a disciplinarian, but he's not as rigid as Belichick. And with Bill O'Brien, Diop's history there with Bill O'Brien, a quarterback you're not sure about in Mac Jones, an offensive identity you have no idea about, and you're going to be basically dependent to go in there and save the franchise when Juju Smith-Schuster can't separate, when Devontae Parker can't separate, and Mac Jones throwing a lot of interceptions. I think New England, even with Diop, again, I think it would have changed their offense a little bit, but I think Tennessee's offense changes a little bit more now because of that threat with Derrick Henry, and now with Diop out there, you can't stack, 9, 10 in the box. You can still stack about 6 or 7, but it's going to help the Titans a little bit, and in a weaker division, maybe you can talk yourself into Tennessee going from 6 to 7 wins to 8 and 9 or 9 and 8 and possibly sneaking it into the postseason. So it makes sense. Again, if he was ring chasing, I would have gone to Cleveland, Buffalo, Kansas City, but clearly money was important to D-Hop, and I think he got what he wanted. A good situation, good weather, good coach, decent, deservable quarterback. He's going to get the ball. He's going to get the run game. And I think D-Hop, I'm not going to say he's going to have a great season because I think him and Kyler Murray put up some special numbers in Arizona, but I think he's going to have a very serviceable season in Nashville, Tennessee. Like that clip from the Brand Sports Podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand Sports Podcast right here on YouTube.